Hey there, everyone. This is Dave Dubeau with another episode of the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast. Today, it's my pleasure to be interviewing a friend of mine and a very astute real estate entrepreneur, Mr. Kory MacKinnon. How are you doing today, Kory?
Doing excellent, Dave. How about you?
I'm fantastic. So, Kory has a very, very interesting background. He comes from the background of being a professional athlete, a national level athlete, as well as a corporate guy. And through real estate investing, he was able to get out of the rat race within 7 years, thanks to real estate. So now he is a full-time real estate entrepreneur. So, Kory, one of the things I know about you is that because of your athletic background, you really, and the level that you're competing at, you really had to dial things in mentally when it came to your sport. So how important is that, dialing stuff in mentally, for real estate and real estate investors?
Well, I think proper mindset, strong mindset is really important everywhere. And, it's not easy. This is a team sport, being a real estate investor. So it's just a different form of excellence. But, I find it's very important because if, your thoughts really do become things. And if you're having weak thoughts and, poor inputs, and you've surrounded yourself with the wrong types of people that aren't going to fill you up and love, support, and encourage you, it can be demoralizing, really, right? So you got to get that straight first before you start deciding to take on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of debt, and managing team members and building your power team and everything else. So I find it's the most important thing. I mean, it's sort of like, don't pass go until you get the mindset piece figured out.
All right. So, I mean, we've all heard about mindset and having a good mindset and all this kind of stuff. What does that mean to you?
Well, it can mean a lot. And I know we've only got so much time here on this podcast. And first of all, thank you for having me on. But, it could be as simple as, well, being really clear on your why. So making sure that you know what your why is. And when I work with people on their why, lots of times their first initial thoughts of like why they are doing something is that they're subconscious, their conscious mind thoughts. So if you think of your brain, cut it in half, a lot of the things that first come out are conscious thoughts, but you really have to go deep enough and dig and do this maybe in the morning or in the evening when your brain is just at a different wavelength, and really just keep asking yourself, like, why am I signing up to do this? Because as we know, I mean, I like the benefits of real estate and I like being an entrepreneur. But there's lots of things about real estate that nobody really likes, right? So you have to make sure that you're prepared and you have that why. Because when you have your why and when that's really clear, then you're being pulled instead of having to push yourself, right? Like you can tap into your passion and your mission in life, and it's pulling you instead of having you to like constantly, because that's draining when you have to push yourself to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, or you don't know why you're doing them, questioning yourself.
All right. And I know a lot of us have heard this whole dial in, find your why. You kind of touched on it there, ask yourself either early in the morning or late at night when you've got a little bit of quiet time, why am I doing this? What are we looking for? I mean, because most people, if they haven't done this exercise, are thinking, well, I want to make a lot of money. Why else? Why else would I be dealing with tenants and toilets and, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in debt? Why else would I be doing it, Kory? So give me an example of either yourself or somebody how they really found their why, if you don't mind.
For sure. And I was literally just sitting down with somebody yesterday. We're working through this, and I had to do the exercise a few times myself because, when I saw the results of it the first time, I think there were still conscious thoughts. I didn't really tap into the subconscious. And I mean, people can Google it. It's like 7 levels deep, reasonings of why you're doing something. But, lots of times it's going to tap into somebody's, lots of times for males, it has to do with freedom, purpose, mission, legacy, family, things of that nature, where if you were faced with what ends up coming down in the very, very bottom line, if it doesn't get you emotional, if it doesn't, feel like you are, you would rather do this than live on this earth, like if you had a gun to your head, and that was the answer, and someone was saying, look, it's either this or you die, like what's it going to be, right? It has to get so deep that, and some people, like, who's kidding who? They don't teach this in school. We're not asked to tap into our mission in life or full potential in life. So sometimes it's an exercise that needs to be facilitated with somebody else, but it's one of those things where people can do it themselves, and they might need to give it a few different stabs. But I find it's very important in life to know why you're here on earth and what your mission is. And if you're clear on your mission, that's when the passion can flow, and that's when you'll move mountains and, hey, deal with the tenants in the toilets and 100 realtors or whatever it might be to make sure that you can be set up enough financially so that you can make all those things happen, right? Because real estate's really a means to end, and as you know, it gives you the opportunity to be more, have more, and do more for society. So,
very good. All right. So, Kory, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate investing in the first place?
Sure. So I was, I guess I was exposed to it a little bit as a young kid. We actually lived in a duplex at the end of the school field where I went to school, and right across the street from my house was a new subdivision where all the uppy up kids were getting their nicer homes. So I always knew there was a little old lady up in the attic, and she paid her $35 or $50 a month back in the 80s, and it was still under market rents back then, but it was literally grandfathered into the deal of the house. Like, my dad could not evict her. So I was exposed to it at a young age. I mean, I can only remember that house for about 4 or 5 years of my first years. And my dad dabbled in it a little bit, never did it on a huge scale. And I think just like, I also had a friend in grade school, and his dad was a realtor. So I guess I was exposed to it in a few different ways. I got to be an entrepreneur at a young age too. I had, paper routes and was always doing side hustles when I was younger. Probably the biggest gateway drug was reading Wealthy Barber, because he's actually from the area that I live in, Sarnia, Ontario. David Chilton's actually from Point Edward, they pretty much touch each other. And then when Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, came out, I mean, it's a page turner. It made a lot of sense to me. I'm a math person. I like math. And when you see the numbers of real estate, I was just like, wow, when I can buy an asset, I only need to have this much money or sometimes no money in the deal, and I get to control this asset. I mean, tell me any other investment. I mean, hey, the stock market, I've dabbled in the stock market too. I just don't like, that there's not as much control there. I can buy a piece of real estate in an up market, down market, sideways market, and still have a huge amount of influence on the value and the sale price of that asset. So I like that there's the control piece. And so I guess I was exposed by some pretty popular means, but I was also exposed to it at a young age, being opportunistic and being entrepreneurial at a young age, and learning a little bit from my dad. So
cool. And tell us a little bit about your sports background, because that's kind of interesting too.
Sure. So I think, as young men, we all kind of want to test our strength or whatever. And I remember it was grade 7 or grade 8 and being in my friend's basement, and there was 80 or 90 pounds on the barbell, and we're all trying to lift this thing. We had no idea what we're doing. Frankly, we probably could have hurt ourselves, but it's funny because that gave me some context. And then a year later, in between the grade 8 and grade 9, I had a summer job, and it was corn attaching. So we're pulling the tassels out of these corn stalks so they wouldn't cross pollinate. But I met a fellow on the bus who, seemed to be pretty strong, and he was probably about 3 or 4 years older than me. And I'm like, well, what do you do? Do you do any sports? He's like, yeah, I actually do weightlifting. It is actually a sport, And that was right around the time of the '88 Olympics, and that's when there was lots of world records being broken back then. Probably with the help of performance enhancing drugs, but it was back when the whole Ben Johnson scandal was going on. Yeah. But I just said, well, where do you do this thing? And he said, well, it's go in the back door of this high school. That's where you can go check it out. And the coolest thing there was that we actually got to work with a former 2-time Olympian, Bob Sandy. And, got to learn things the proper way. And, in the beginning, I wasn't lifting a whole lot of weight. I can still remember it was 40 kilos. I was practicing with 40 kilos. And man, my back was sore, and having to keep the right posture and everything like that. But again, it's, you've probably read the book, talent's overrated. I find that sometimes the people that don't have the talent, they have to work and work and work for it the most, or the ones that succeed the most because they've had to actually work to earn it. So I guess that was me. I was never super blessed. I've even had my DNA genetics tested, and it shows that I could actually be sort of an endurance athlete or a power athlete, but I literally took being a power athlete as far as I could physically take it. Definitely national level. I didn't quite get to the world level. I did try out for Olympic trials, Commonwealth trials, Pan Am trials. So top 3 in Canada, national medalist, did it for about 13 years.
Very nice. Very good. All right. So what is it when it comes back to real estate, when it comes to real estate investing, what do you focus on primarily, Kory?
I've always been into multifamily. So my first deal was a sixplex. That was my first deal that I ever did. And I liked it because I could actually house hack in that first deal. And from there, I just started looking for more similar things, triplexes, duplexes. Did get into some single family homes, but it's multis. And now we're getting into bigger multis. I'm going to be buying into a 14 unit building this summer.
Nice.
And we're actually constructing a 29 unit conversion from a church now. So multifamily, I love multifamily because it's more like a business, right? You can actually change that business. It's valued by the banks based on the rent roll and the expenses. So I like that you have a little more control.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, Kory, what are some of the bigger mistakes you see? Because I know you're involved in numerous groups and you're a voracious reader, voracious learner, taking courses all over the place, all that kind of good stuff. You're a full-time real estate entrepreneur right now. What are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing newbie or even just regular other investors making in real estate?
Sure. I guess there's a few of them. It's a great question. Maybe the first mistake is that people get analysis by paralysis, and they sit on the sidelines way too long. And you can't learn a sport by sitting on the sidelines either, or reading a book or watching YouTube. Like, you got to get out there and play the game on the field. So sometimes it's over analysis, just people that never will pull the trigger on anything. Then you get people that are trigger happy and they just fire, ready, aim. Because they have no benchmarks, they have no guiding principles that they're going to use as filters before they actually make an offer. And maybe, just like being so eager to do a deal that they'll actually end up buying a dog. And for me, I don't want to have any dogs in the portfolio because it's like, and once you buy a real estate property, you're typically taking over someone else's problems, and you got to be willing to take on any future problems too. So,
right.
Those are the most common problems I see.
Yeah. So either thinking about it too much or not thinking about it enough.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So what would you say is you've got your why dialed in, you're a numbers guy. I'm thinking you've got some discipline from all your years in sports. What would you think is probably your biggest unfair advantage when it comes to real estate investing?
Great question. I think that it's important, if anybody's ever been in business or been in the corporate world, you have to realize that you can't do this all yourself. And it's the people that try to be a lone wolf, they typically end up dying on their own sword. So a great book for people to dig into is, and something I recommend to people all the time is, make sure you read the E-Myth, because people have to understand the key people that you need to have in your business. And you need to know, are you more the entrepreneur and the visionary and you're not the detail person? Or are you the detail person that can set up systems and manage people and projects? Or are you more like that hands-on person that swings the hammers, and you like that? Or maybe you need to make sure that you're not spending too much time on the hammers and the nails, so you can make sure that you're running it like a real business. So for me, I think it's just that awareness that I know that I'm more the probably about 60% the manager leader, and I'm really good at screening people and setting up systems and just running it like a business. But I just do have to have people in my wheelhouse that keep me with that clear vision, and also make sure that I have the right team members on my team. So just make sure that you're setting your business up like a really strong business is important too. Once you got the mindset down, then now it's about the power team and setting up the proper way to be able to scale, because you can't build something without a strong foundation. That's for sure.
Perfect. Now, getting back to kind of your specialty all around mindset. So we've talked a little bit about the importance of really dialing in your why. What are some other mindset challenges that you see people having? We talked about some people just analyze the hell out of everything. Other people don't think about it enough. They just fire off. What are some of the other big things that you see that may, perhaps your clients that you've seen have challenges with mindset wise?
Sure. I think people need to, they feel that they need to wait for the win to be so big, when it's worth popping a champagne bottle before they actually congratulate themselves and celebrate. I think if you make celebration something that's done even for the small things, then it helps your confidence, and that gives you better quality thoughts. And we have thousands of thoughts every single day. we want to make our thoughts as positive as possible. So if you're not getting the positivity from society, because who's kidding who? We're weird. Real estate investors are not typically normal people. We're a very small fraction of North America, or of the world, frankly, that invests in real estate. Yeah. So it's really making sure that you are clear on your thoughts, and you're being mindful, like you're standing guard at the gate of your mind for what's going through your mind all the time. And maybe it's also a little bit of planning. People, if they're not celebrating and watching their thought process, they're also not actually making time to think and plan on a weekly basis of like, what is the highest and best use of my time? Mm-hmm. What am I focused on, laser focused on this week? Great. And let's go execute. Because you and I, Dave, like, you can remember when the cell phone used to actually be a phone. And now, frankly, phones are super distractive. Even, I was looking at this TV of mine. It's a smart TV. So it's like, man, even our TVs are distracting now. So it's really just making sure that people can be clear and focused, and, tuning out all the noise. Like, there's oftentimes where I put my phone on airplane mode and just get some deep work done, because that's how it used to be. That's the way it used to be.
Yeah, you are so right. We are so distracted these days. And I look at my kids, and I don't think they can remember a time that they didn't have a device in front of them, right? And you're so right. I mean, I find myself, I've tried to I don't even have a TV in the house. However, that sounds cool, but your computer's the same thing nowadays, right? I mean, you can get everything on the computer. And then having these damn things binging and dinging and all that sort of stuff, you're absolutely right. It's a matter of, every once in a while, I have to get away from the screens and just sit down with a pad of paper and a pen and do it old school. And I find that very valuable. Awesome. That's important, because I think people don't realize the mind-body connection. When you type something on a computer or do this with your thumbs, you're actually not depositing very much into your brain or your nervous system or anything like that. But they used to call it when people are writing a book, they used to call it a manuscript, because it was, handwritten. Yeah. And it just, it really resonated with the person who was writing it. It just became part of them. That's why journaling, getting out a pen and paper, doing the old Benjamin Franklin method of pros and cons once in a while. I mean, it's just so important to do. When you read a book, like, literally just, engage other senses as well, not just your ears, not just your eyes, but when you can actually engage your physical body, it's so much more important too. Very good. Exactly. So, Kory, time flies when we're having fun.
It does.
Want to find out more about Kory MacKinnon, what should they do?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. You can Google me. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook. You can start to follow my YouTube channel. We're just going to start to blow that up here in the next couple months. I've got my own domain, so KoryMacKinnon.com. Feel free to reach out if I can ever help anybody on their journey. Let me know.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent, Dave. Thanks again for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Well, thanks very much for checking out the Property Profits podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head on over to iTunes, subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. Be very, very much appreciated. And if you're looking to create a regular flow of inbound investor inquiries about your real estate deals, then I invite you to attend one of my upcoming live online demonstrations. And you can check that out at investorattractiondemo.com. Take care.